You are walking down a peaceful suburban street on a bright sunny afternoon when suddenly a shrill voice cuts through the air like nails on a chalkboard. Karen, the local HOA president, spots Laura, a Marine veteran, slowly making her way home with her cane after a long physical therapy session. What happens next will make your blood boil as Karen marches straight up and starts screaming about flag placement and parking violations, turning a quiet day into pure chaos. Laura sighed heavily, her shoulders dropping as the weight of another confrontation hit her. The warm afternoon sun beat down on the cul-de-sac where freshly mowed lawns smelled sweet and clean, but the tension in the air felt thick and electric. Karen stood there, hands on hips, her perfectly pressed blouse already showing sweat stains under the arms. Can you believe someone would do this to a veteran? Laura thought, her mind flashing back to dusty roads in the desert where she once carried wounded comrades. Karen pointed an accusing finger, her voice rising higher. You cannot park that car half an inch over the line, and that flag is 2 feet too low according to bylaws, she barked. Laura tried to steady herself on the cane, her bad leg aching from old shrapnel wounds. Ma'am, I am a disabled veteran. This cane helps me walk after serving my country in Iraq, she explained, her voice calm but firm. The words hung there for a moment as birds chirped in nearby trees, but Karen just rolled her eyes. Oh please, everyone has excuses these days, Karen snapped back, her face twisting into a sneer. Rules are rules, no exceptions even for you people. Laura felt a wave of frustration rise in her chest mixed with deep sadness. After everything she had given, how could this woman be so heartless? The cane felt slippery in her palm from nervous sweat. What would you have done in her shoes, folks? Suddenly Karen stepped closer, her voice turning venomous. Move that car now or I will have it towed. Laura shifted her weight to respond, but Karen lunged forward and kicked the cane hard with her designer loafer. The wooden cane flew out from under Laura with a sharp crack, sending it clattering across the hot asphalt. Laura gasped loudly, stumbling forward, her bad leg buckling as sharp pain shot up her spine like fire. She reached out desperately, grabbing at empty air, her heart pounding in her ears. Oh my God, did she just do that? Mike, the neighbor, yelled from his front porch, rushing over. His footsteps thudded heavy on the pavement as he waved his arms. Laura hit the ground hard, her palms scraping against rough concrete that burned her skin. Tears stung her eyes, not just from pain but from the humiliation washing over her. The smell of warm tar and cut grass filled her nostrils as she lay there breathing heavily. How dare she, Laura whispered through gritted teeth, her voice breaking. Karen stood over her, laughing coldly. See what happens when you break the rules, she taunted. A small crowd began gathering, neighbors peeking outdoors and whispering in shock. One woman covered her mouth in disbelief while another pulled out her phone to record. The sun glinted off the fallen cane lying several feet away, bent slightly at the handle now. Laura tried to push herself up, but her legs screamed in protest, sending waves of nausea through her body. Mike knelt beside Laura, helping her sit up gently. Ma'am, are you okay? He asked, his voice full of genuine concern. Laura nodded weakly, but her hands trembled. I served 2 tours and lost part of my mobility to an IED, she said softly, her eyes distant for a moment. This cane is my lifeline. Mike shook his head angrily, glaring at Karen. You cannot treat people like this, especially someone who protected our freedom. Karen crossed her arms smugly. She was violating HOA covenants, simple as that. The crowd murmured louder now, with someone shouting, call the police. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer fast. Laura took a deep shaky breath, feeling the hot pavement through her clothes. Her mind raced with memories of comrades lost and the pride she still carried despite everything. Why would anyone kick away support from a veteran, she wondered aloud, her voice trembling with emotion. Officer Daniels arrived first, jumping out of his patrol car with purpose. He took in the scene quickly, the scattered cane, Laura on the ground and Karen still standing defiantly. What happened here? He demanded, his tone serious. Multiple neighbors pointed at Karen, describing the kick in detail. One showed video on their phone capturing the exact moment the cane flew. Karen tried to interrupt, waving her hands. It was an accident, she claimed, her voice now higher pitched with panic. Officer Daniels stepped directly in front of Karen, blocking her path with his body. Ma'am, step back now, he ordered firmly, extending his arm. You are not approaching her again. Karen sputtered, her face turning red. You cannot do this to me, I am the HOA president, she protested loudly. But the officer stood his ground, unmoved, his badge shining in the sunlight. Witnesses say you assaulted her by kicking away her mobility aid, he replied calmly but with steel in his voice. Laura watched from the ground as Mike helped her to a seated position. The pain in her leg throbbed steadily, but a spark of hope flickered as justice unfolded. The officer cuffed Karen after reading her rights while she continued arguing futilely. The metal click of handcuffs echoed sharply, cutting through the murmurs of the growing crowd. Karen twisted, trying to pull away, but Officer Daniels held firm. "You are under arrest for assault," he stated clearly. The neighbors cheered quietly, some clapping while others shook their heads in disbelief. As Karen was led to the patrol car, her entitled mask cracked, revealing fear in her eyes. She glanced back at Laura with a mix of anger and regret, but it was too late. The cane was retrieved and handed back to Laura, who gripped it tightly, feeling its familiar weight. Tears welled up again, but this time from gratitude. "Thank you, officer," she said, her voice thick with emotion. Daniels nodded respectfully. "Veterans like you deserve better, ma'am," he replied sincerely. The crowd lingered, offering help and words of support to Laura. One neighbor brought water while another called her family. The afternoon sun dipped slightly, casting long shadows across the cul-de-sac where the confrontation had unfolded. Sirens faded into the distance, carrying Karen away to face consequences. Laura stood slowly with help, leaning on her cane but feeling taller in spirit. The smell of blooming flowers from nearby yards mixed with lingering exhaust from the police car. In the days that followed, the story spread through the neighborhood and beyond. Community members rallied around Laura, organizing support, including yard work and meal deliveries. HOA meetings saw new discussions about reasonable accommodations for veterans and disabled residents. Karen faced charges and lost her position as president, her reputation shattered by her own actions. Neighbors whispered about the karma that had come full circle after years of her bullying others over minor infractions. Laura reflected often on that day, sitting on her porch with the American flag flying proudly at the correct height, now approved by new board rules. The cane rested beside her, a symbol not of weakness but of resilience earned through sacrifice. She sighed deeply, remembering the kick, the pain and the helplessness, but also the turning point when good people stepped up. What if no one had called the police, she sometimes wondered aloud to friends. The thought sent chills through her, but gratitude always followed. Mike became a close friend, visiting regularly to check on her. Their conversations often turned to stories of service and community strength. The neighborhood felt different now, more united against petty tyranny. Officer Daniels even stopped by once to ensure Laura was recovering well, sharing his own military background. Small acts like these restored her faith in humanity bit by bit. Flashbacks haunted Laura at night, sometimes the desert heat, the explosions, the moment her leg was injured, forever changed. But daylight brought reminders of victory, not defeat. Kicking the cane had been Karen's biggest mistake, exposing her cruelty for all to see. The video went mildly viral in local circles, sparking conversations about respecting those who served. Laura received messages of support from veterans across the country, encouraging her onward. The court date arrived months later. Karen appeared subdued, no longer the loud bully but a woman facing real accountability. Witnesses testified, including Mike, and the phone video played clearly showing the deliberate kick. Laura spoke calmly about her service, the injury, and the impact of that moment. The judge listened intently, then delivered a stern lecture on compassion and consequences. Karen received probation, community service, and a permanent record reminder of her choices. Laura left the courtroom standing straighter, her cane now a badge of honor. Outside, the sun shone brightly, just like that fateful day, but the air felt lighter, freer. Neighbors hugged her and shared stories of their own encounters with Karen. The experience taught everyone a powerful lesson about standing up against injustice, no matter how small it seemed at first. In the end, justice prevailed, as it often does when good people refuse to stay silent. Laura continued her recovery stronger, surrounded by a community that valued her sacrifices. The HOA even planted a small memorial tree in her honor, recognizing veterans' contributions. Karen faded into obscurity, her entitlement replaced by isolation from her own actions. Folk stories like this remind us that bullies eventually meet their match. Respect those who serve, protect the vulnerable, and never let petty rules override basic human decency. Laura walks taller now, her cane steady, because she knows she is not alone. What a powerful reminder that karma has a way of balancing the scales when we least expect it.